G'day, monkeys. I'm Eddie Braverman. That's Midas Mulligan Magoo.
Wait, what the fuck is that shit on your face, bro? Hold on a second. You can't do the intro. What the fuck is that?
Oh, well, you see...
You may continue.
I make it a point to shave once a week because any more frequently than that, and I might just cut my throat. So today, or this week rather, I decided to shave the morning after St. Patrick's Day, and I had to shake something fierce. So I went and fucked my beard up, so I had to shave it all off and start over. But fear not, monkeys, it'll be back next week. Anyway, I'm Eddie Braverman, that's Midas Mulligan Magoo, and this is episode 19 of Not Safe for Work on WallStreetOasis.com. This week we're discussing the notion that sex is dirty and gets in the way of networking opportunities, the wild ride in the Japanese yen this week, and the future of peer-to-peer lending. So let's get it on. I gotta tell you, I cracked up laughing when I first read the New York Observer article that Jorge referenced in his Sex is Dirty post this week. For those who haven't read it, it's about 20 career types who say that they're no longer having sex because they're too busy tweeting, and that sex screws up networking opportunities anyway. I can almost see a grain of truth to this. When I think about how the internet has changed every single part of our lives, there's no reason our sexual habits wouldn't change with everything else. The level of self-absorption that sites like Facebook and Twitter now make possible has brought out the narcissist in all of us, to a certain degree. But to forego sex altogether because it's easier to go home and rub one out to Asian porn, it's just... Maybe it's my generation that's fucked up. We ran around like madmen, and pretty much any woman we met was a potential target. Maybe this younger generation has more on the ball than we did. I'm just glad I never had to choose between getting laid or updating my Twitter feed. Midas?
So about a decade ago, Chris Rock made a music video that used to get a lot of play called There's No Sex in the Champagne Room, and he basically outlined about you not being able to get any ass out of a stripper, no matter what she promised you in the main area of the club. Today's remix would probably be named, and quite righteously, Can't Have My Dick Without Retweet, bitch. Because American men have become the de facto equivalent of a frozen, latent homosexual sperm sample with the pulse. I mean, who gives a fuck about your status updates? Soon you'll die, and as your lids sink closer together, the only goddamn thing you'll be asking yourself is, why did I not have a son to leave all this to? It's the same question that's troubled men for about the last, 50,000 years or so, but apparently we've figured something out in the last 50 years that makes us very superior, which I still haven't understood yet. At that point, you'll actually realize that the feminist Nazi, I'm gonna say a word now. You wanna cut me off, Eddie? You wanna cut me off, Eddie? You wanna cut me off? Fucking cunt rags that raised you and led you astray. That you're the ultimate cuckold subscriber to the global population control theorem that starts with your bitch ass not getting laid. Thank God I have real live Asian sex slaves on tap and know how to dropkick their asses into place properly, so my $29.99 a month for yet another jerk-off session is not further wasted in bastardizing the human race. That's why I make posts about the few monkeys that actually get laid, because it's a rare enough fucking occurrence and should be celebrated like a goddamn holiday that it is, and propagated a lot harder than Facebook or fucking Twitter. Social media and the thank you economy, my ass.
Alright, well I see happy hour started early at somebody's house today. Let's get serious for a minute. We saw some wild moves in the Japanese yen this week. And when I say wild, I mean moves I have never seen in the 15 years I've traded currencies. I was just dicking around on Wednesday night, drinking rum, scrolling through the various markets I keep up with, when the yen took off like a raped ape. Screamed up over 300 basis points against the dollar in 10 minutes. At first, all I could think about was all the American traders who were short the yen and couldn't do anything about it until the next morning. Then I looked at the yen against the other currencies, and it was ripping up even higher. It was crushing the Aussie dollar, the euro. Basically, all bets were off. I was watching the entire global yen carry trade unwind in the space of an hour. Now, things have since stabilized, but it took coordinated intervention by the Bank of Japan and the Federal Reserve, and I'll bet several other central banks, just to bring the yen off its new highs. It's odd, because violent swings have always been a part of the market, but it seems these days they're far more dramatic, far more frequent, and just as likely to happen when you're asleep. If you're a trader today, you gotta have your head on a swivel. What do you think, dude?
I think the whole notion of market efficiency is a whole bunch of bullshit, and I've actually decided to add to my gloriously growing monkey shit total this week by writing a little bit more about how globalization will be the death of us all, at least those of us in developed countries. The yen's abrupt free fall and subsequent restoration are a perfect example of why today's markets are not free, and why government interference does not allow them to be, and why the vast majority of American taxpayers are being pimped out to support not only the oligarchies of this country, but those of the rest of the world. The next time you guys wonder why all the plebs in the middle class and lower classes hate Wall Street, do a little scrounging as to how the yen has been manipulated over the past week. The amount of fiscal stimulus that went into propping up the yen, which is the real reason why it's been shooting around up and down and upside down and around the way it has been, in reference to the crisis of the past 10 days or so in Japan, will make TARP look like a little cotton poly blend piece of bullshit in the long range. So God fucking help us if the only divine intervention that we can get is government help in markets. I don't want to know where this goes from here. And I don't even want to think about it.
It's true, and I think about the guys that had stops in, you know, how bad are you just beating yourself up if you had a stop in that they reached up and grabbed and then took the market back in the other direction? You know, it's just, oh.
The better question is, what's your motivation to get in that position again next time? Because you made the right play, you made the right call, but, well, listen, we have to look out for the greater good. Fuck the fucking greater good. For once, let the bullshit fall. Let the guys who made the wrong play at the wrong time suffer. One time. Just one time. And let's see what happens then. But that's not going to happen. So,
no.
What's the point?
Alright, you guys know that I'm a fan of peer-to-peer lending, and I've been investing with Lending Club for a few months now, and I'm pretty pleased with the results so far, as I've posted on the site. I think P2P lending is a trend that's going to take off, and that's generally good for borrowers, less so for investors, but overall I think it's one of the things that might change the banking landscape going forward. Here's something I've been hearing whispered more and more lately that could be a real game changer. What is the one company on the planet that could change the way people borrow money?
Don't say it. Please, don't. Come on. Please.
It's a no-brainer.
No.
No! With over 500 million members, projected to be $1 billion by the end of 2012, Facebook could absolutely dominate P2P lending. I mean, think about it. You need to borrow money to buy a car. You got your job, you got your credit score. That's just about everything you've got when you go to a lender. But when you go through Facebook, you got more than that. You got 150 or so friends, real, who will most likely vouch for you. And everyone knows you're less likely to default on a loan when you be fucking over an old high school buddy. Now, while I don't agree with Facebook's current valuation in the least, getting into banking, and taking a percentage of every loan that they issue could easily justify a $50 billion valuation. What do you think?
Dude, seriously, 147 of my 150 Facebook friends are just underage girls that I'm trying to get at and circumvent the statutory rape laws. Old high school buddies are the way upstanding citizens wind up doing a double statutory rape/homicide bid. It's the way hookers wind up outside of the ground in Tijuana some mornings, you know? Listen, what you say makes sense generally, but I'm really afraid for the fucking world at large if Facebook becomes the intermediary for any large-scale financial transactions. Seeing a photo of some fucker I knew way back when my main objective was a blowjob and a beer doesn't translate into sufficient merit for loaning out 5, 6, 7, or 8-figure loans. Then again, if B&B is the end of you, you might be making the right move. Like I said, it makes sense in terms of the general broad strokes, but I really don't like the idea of big business like that being done on the merits of a smile and a login number, because you really can't get much just because you're showing somebody your bank account statements. It's way too nascent, it's way too raw, it's still way too wild west, and we're way too comfortable with it way too soon, in my opinion. So, moving right along into our reading session, I'm going to recommend something to you guys that anybody who's willing to sit through it and read it and actually write a synopsis of it has 100 silver bananas from me off the top. The book's called The Bourgeois Virtues by Deirdre McCluskey. It is absolutely the ultimate oxymoron for a liberal and the ultimate bitch slap for a conservative who thinks he is but really is not. Difficult pain in the ass read that talks about the underlying assumptions and values of the economic principles of today's world. You really need to read this book, because a lot of you guys who think you're very liberal, and a lot of you guys who think you're very conservative, and a lot of you guys who think you're very pro-free market are absolutely not. You're just literal monkeys dancing in the scope of somebody else's frame. So think about it. You're going to have a real twisted and re-straightened view of what both capitalism and socialism are after you read this book, if you can sit through it. We are tittering on the brink of something different and something possibly very good and something very bad in this world. This is a book that could help a few of you guys figure it out. So check it out and let me know what you think. Eddie?
All right, cool. I don't actually have a book recommendation this week, guys. I've got a TV show recommendation. It's a Discovery Channel series called Surviving the Cut. Some of you guys might be familiar with it already. It's all about the training that goes into joining the special forces of each different branch of the service, and it is intense.
Good stuff.
If you've ever wondered if you could survive Army Ranger or Marine Sniper training, check it out. It's absolutely impossible not to be fired up after watching an episode of this show. Once again, it's Surviving the Cut on the Discovery Channel. Great stuff. That's all I've got for this week. Keep your heads low and your powder dry, and we'll see you next week. Stay classy, WSO.